Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the world's first Paul Weller fan podcast. I'm Dan Jennings, and 10 years ago I gave up my live stream and my career as a radio presenter, with one big regret: never getting to interview my hero, the legendary British musician Paul Weller. This podcast exists purely to solve that issue. Welcome to Desperately Seeking Paul. So if you've just landed with us, make sure you check out Stuart Debill from episode 1 and Mark Baxter, otherwise known as Bax, from episode 2. Both massive Weller fans from the Jam to the Style Council to now. And I was thinking about one thing that Bax was talking about and how Paul had asked him when they first met what he was listening to, what he was reading and what he was watching. And being honest, I was a bit worried about that. And let me tell you why. So I had two boys. Henry, who's 6, and Freddie, who's nearly 4. So what I'm listening to is Frozen and Moana. What I'm reading is the works of Julia Donaldson, the likes of the Gruffalo. And what I'm watching is mainly Paw Patrol and Fireman Sam. But given that Paul also has young kids, I'm hoping that'll be okay. So here we are at episode 3, and a very special guest, the singer and songwriter Russell Hastings, otherwise known as the lead singer in the band From the Jam. He's been performing with legendary Jam bassist Bruce Foxton since 2007, when Russell and the Jam drummer Rick Buckler were touring with The Gift. Russell has been the only frontman to work with both Rick and Bruce since Paul Weller split the Jam in 1982, and has been earning respect from fans across the world as both a brilliant frontman and an incredible guitar player. As a genuine Jam fan, his passion and understanding of the history is second to none, and he's toured the world playing to packed houses of Jam fans, otherwise known as the Jam Army, for years. On their own albums, Russell and Bruce have recorded at Black Barn Studios, otherwise known as Paul Weller HQ, and Paul has even featured on the last couple of albums too. So it's safe to say they're good mates. So let's get into it. Hi, Russell.
All right, mate. Yeah, you?
Where in the world do we find you?
I'm on a boat in Chichester.
Oh, nice.
I'm in my boat. I've come down to my boat. It's a cave, really, so I've come down here. I had some work to do in the bathroom, so I thought, well, let's come down and we'll do this down here as well, because I've got Wi-Fi down here, and I write songs here. I come and escape here, and luckily I live on the beach anyway, but I'm very close to a marina, so I come here and then I escape across into the Solent most of the time.
For the purposes of this podcast, this is audio. Are people imagining a Roman Abramovich style vessel, or is it kind of a houseboat, or what type of boat is it?
Funny, yeah. Stuart Pearce came down a little while ago. Piercy, as in football, Piercy and
Psycho.
Yeah, Psycho. Yeah. I'm friends with Stuart and that. I thought, I hope you don't think I've got a Abramovich boat. Yeah, he came down with his wife, and we're friends anyway. Been friends because Stuart comes to a lot of gigs, and it's a 40-foot motor cruiser. I'm lucky it's got couple of bedrooms on it and a lounge and telly and whatever, and no tennis courts or nothing like that. But me and my wife love doing what we do. We come out on it. My wife's got a successful business, and I've been very fortunate in music business as well. So been very lucky, very blessed and very lucky.
I'd love to know when you first discovered Paul's music, because your story is so unique. It'll be great to kind of follow this through. But when was that first time? I'm guessing it was the Jam.
It was, yeah. It was my brother got me into Nevermind the Bollocks first, the album Nevermind the Bollocks, obviously around the Pistols time, the Stranglers. In fact, I probably got into the Stranglers just on the cusp of when they released Peaches. I was always a big music fan, and I clearly remember, I remember the spring of '76. I'm 55 now. I'm coming 56. I clearly remember the spring of '76, and I remember the punk revolution exploding. I remember it happening. I remember the Bill Grundy interviews. I remember because I guess like a lot of younger people in those days, a lot of younger people were more into music. It seemed they were into music very early on, and were very aware. There was a lot of awareness going on because music. There was a lot of records around. I got first got into the Beatles, and then and I was a big music fan anyway. I love music, and to try and plink along pianos and pick up acoustic guitars and not make a bit of a row. Anyway, my brother got me into Nevermind the Bollocks, and like me and hundreds of thousands of others, my world sort of opened up really. And then of course the Jam came along, and I remember seeing In the City album turned up at the house, and I thought I'd just love to sleep. And then I went to see them down at Portsmouth Locarno in black and white suits. It was an old little club down in Pompey. And then, through that, progressed through and saw the Jam. I've always I forget how many times I'd seen the band, but I'd always claimed it was around 30 odd times. And I think it must have been something like that, you know,
Wow.
No idea really. And then I saw the band, you know, coming right the way through. And I met the band quite a few times throughout that period, you know, 1980. I remember having a really good conversation with Paul and Bruce in 1980. Spring of 82, The Gift came out, and we got in the sound check like we did. And then I went back to the hotel and bumped into Paul, and he said, look, I'm not making anything, you know, it's not they ain't my ideas. He said, he went, wait there a minute, and he shot up to his room. He went, who's that? And he gave me 4 black and white photographs. I've still got them at home. Yeah, I said, it's you. He said, no, it's Stevie Marriott. It's the Small Faces on the Ready, Steady, Go show. And he went, where do you think I get it from? And I clearly remember that, you know, and Paul had, just prior to that, he'd had the Toblerone haircut and, you know, the white Levi and the paisley shirts. And you know, him and Marriott looked identical. And then, of course, when I was with him that afternoon, he'd gone, a couple of days before, he'd gone and had a complete skinhead, much to the surprise of a load of the big Weller fans, you know, the look-alikes. You know, and then he said, look, do you want to lift down to soundcheck? So he went on the coach down to soundcheck. Anyway, so, you know, and then Paul's music was always around me, you know, and of course, you know, and they split up, and then, you know, and I was always into what Paul's solo stuff was all about. And Paul's music's, you know, been a part of my life, like many, many other people in the country or around the world, really.
You mentioned about those albums and kind of how much, I mean, 5 years to see them 30 times, I'm trying to do the maths. That's an awful lot of gigs every year.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Especially when you're that age, you know.
Yeah.
I started going when I think I was 12 or 13 when I started to go, you know. Some of the tickets were £2.75 and that, you know. You know, I was there when they did, like, in the old days when they did the A-bomb explosion, and the place just completely almost blew up, you know, and it was pyrotechnics. They were allowed to do it, you know, in those days. Proper pyrotechnics, and you know, it come to the end, APOCA, YBSE, Apocalypse, and it just went boom. The place shook like I've never experienced anything like it. It was like a proper bomb going off. It was great. But of course, in those days, you know, and many a Jam fan will agree, you know, the Jam was about 3 people in the band. Of course, Paul was one of the best frontmen we've ever had. He's a great frontman, full of attitude, full of everything like that. But when they come out, they used to run out on stage. That was the exciting thing about it. You know, they came running out, and it would be Paul, Bruce and Rick, you know. And it was exciting, and Bruce was flying around the stage. Rick was Rick. You know, funny enough, you know, Rick's, I had a good relationship with them all, actually, over the years, you know, and particularly with Bruce, because I've been with Bruce, working with Bruce, I've been dear, close friends for many years, you know. And I forget he's Bruce Foxton from the Jam, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
which is a good thing, because I think you can't have a friendship based on thinking, oh, fucking hell, that's Bruce Foxton from the Jam. Somebody that you know used to adorn your walls. You can't have that. You can't speak to them openly. So it's better that you have. Me and Bruce have got a very rare relationship. It's a very, you know, we can read each other's minds. I can speak on his behalf and likewise, you know. And I totally understand the personalities of the band, and I totally understand why the band split up. All those things, really. Having known everybody within, I get it. You know, I really get it. I get Paul, I get Bruce, and I get Rick. You know, not complicated people, very straightforward. They're a good laugh.
It's a lovely way you put it in terms of this kind of, you know, you as a kind of teenager, the big announcement, you know, and I'm guessing it was John Weller.
Put your hands together for the best band in the fucking world, the Jam!
And then these 3 guys kind of running out. That excitement must have been incredible.
Through the roof, you know, it really was. And what was more, I used to say to Bruce, I remember when you'd all go, it's not like today where you got so with the media, everybody's by very instantaneous gratification today. You know, everyone wants to know, right, where did they go when they left the stage? You know, when they used to leave the stage, that was it. You know, until you saw them on telly again or something like that, maybe on, you know, on the Chris Tarrant show or something like on Tiz was, you know, maybe 6 months down the line. You didn't know where they went. You know, the magic was still there. Whereas today, everybody wants this instant gratification of seeing and getting a reply from somebody. You know, people get pissed off if might say something on Twitter and you don't respond to it. You know what I mean? And then they want that. And I loved that joyous moment. They'd leave the stage and it was like some magical thing had happened and then they'd gone. Do you know what I mean? An hour and 20 minutes and then there they were. They went off into the night, bang. I spent many a time asking Rick and Bruce, so where did you go after so-and-so? What did you do after the night at Brighton? What happened? And all those things, so I found out, it wasn't so much of a mystery,
Went home.
We went home,
Yeah.
Right, we went home.
But like you say, I imagine there was a period where you kind of had all those questions that you get out of your system. You first know Rick and Bruce and Paul.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is so fascinating and so unique is that there are only two people in the world who have sung these songs to huge crowds over a decent period of time. And there's Paul Weller and there's you. You're there on stage and you're touring the world, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, UK, etc. And you're singing these songs to massive audiences. That must be so exciting.
It's an absolute thrill and a joy and, how lucky am I? I must point out that I sing them from my perspective, which is great, because it would be dishonourable and it would be crass and tacky if I sung them from Paul's perspective, if you see what I mean.
You're not a Paul Weller impressionist. This is not you. You're not being Paul on stage.
No, that's right. Paul leaves the building early in the morning, if you know. He's never in the building. But so he leaves the building. So, I understand those songs. I understand, to the best of my ability anyway, and I understand the joy that they gave people because they still give me that joy. So to give you an idea, to come out on stage in Sydney to 1,800 people like at the Barrowlands and the place is just completely bouncing and they welcome you with open arms because I'm no longer the new boy, at first it's pretty intimidating. But to go down, to be on Bondi Beach in the daytime with the crew, with Rick and Bruce, and then go to the gig at night and play the gig, and in New York, and in Newcastle, and in London, Shepherd's Bush Empire or the Forum, all those places, what's it like? It's weird because you think I'd get asked that question all the time, and I don't. Whether people want to ask it, I don't know. But it is a good question because it's brilliant, and but it has to be done with a lot of respect. Because they're not my songs, when I'm not singing the ones that me and Bruce have written. So, and Paul wrote them. They do, and I think a lot of people and a lot of fans would understand it for the jams and Paul's solo career and etc. That they tend to belong to the hearts of the fans, really. It's like the Beatles songs, they tend to belong to people's hearts anyway, because they certainly stir that. Just looking back, thinking of people that, seeing people in tears. And I've seen it, singing songs and then look up and then seeing them in floods of tears and thinking, wonder what's happened down there then, but not knowing that it's what we're doing that's incited that, and I guess that's a brilliant thing that it's moved somebody that much, and I've had the hairs on the back of my neck go up and it still happens today. It doesn't happen all the time. But I'll get a moment when it's really happening on stage and it's really in the moment. There's nothing contrived about it at all. It's really, it is what it is in that second. And it's bouncing up and down. And I think pretty special this. And Bruce comes off stage, many, many times he's gone to me, it was never that big in the old day. It was never that exciting then. He said, it's just such a thrill. He said, he'll come off and go, it is a joy to be on stage with you guys. And we'll say the same with Bruce and with Mikey and with Andy, because obviously Rick left in 2009. Rick decided that he just wanted to hang up his sticks and not play anymore. So that's fair enough. But it was a real joy. And it's, long may it continue. I say that all the time because we never really realised how long, I guess, it would go on for. And Bruce says that and Paul said that about the jam. They didn't know how long it would go on for. Bruce, Steve and Rick were, around in 72 stroke 73, and then Bruce came along in 74. And then, I said to Bruce the other day, it was only last week, I went, that's nearly 50 years ago, man. He went, oh, thanks. It's another lifetime ago. It really is. another light. He goes, was I in that band?
The fact you guys have been touring for 13 years is from the Jam. I think the Gifts, like you said, when you were Rick, was a couple of years before that. So this is like 15 years of your life. Like you said earlier, it's really important to look at the Jam through the lens of the three guys. This isn't just Paul Weller. This was Rick and Bruce and Paul. And it must be incredible to kind of be standing next to Bruce when he's playing, and those unmistakable bass riffs of Town Called Malice and Tube Station and stuff. Yeah. He's unique. He's totally unique.
Absolutely. It's like here you go. This is how it is. Bruce doubts himself. Rick doubted himself, and Paul doubts himself. That makes them human. I like that. That makes them non-bulletproof. I remember playing some stuff to Paul. Paul played piano on a song that I wrote called Number 6, and played piano, played quite a bit of guitar on some different songs. And we were sitting down at the piano I'm sitting with a guitar next to Paul, and Paul's playing the piano, and he goes, is that okay? And, he's asking me correctly, because is it okay? It's like, well, I'm not going to say, because I'm not one to tell you, Paul, if you push a piano down the stairs, it's great, because if it's shit, I'll tell you it's shit. I ain't one like that. I don't get all that sycophantic stuff. I understand why it happens. I really do. But you've got to look through that, because they all hate that. They can't bear it, any of them. And people can't fathom out that sycophantic. They want to say, look, man, don't tell me that because I've pushed that piano down that stairs, it sounds fantastic, because it's crap, and we're all capable of coming up with some rubbish. And I like that about Paul. I like that about Bruce, and I like that about Rick, and I like that about musicians that second guess themselves. And I guess anybody with most of the greats all do that. I haven't met any of them that have come in and gone, that's amazing, get that down. It's not like that. I remember Paul thinking, if it's not right, let's just take it out, because Paul's a really quick worker. He puts stuff down, and if it works, it works. And he did some reverse guitaring on a track called Window Shopping, which I wrote back in, 2011, something like that. It was great. I walked in the studio, and he'd already done that part of the guitar, and he said, look, I played it back to me. And he said, what do you think? And I went, oh, it's fucking great. And he went, really? I went, no, yeah, really. It's great, because I wouldn't say it's great if it wasn't, because he's giving you the opportunity to say, well, look, if it don't work, well, just take it out. And he played glockenspiel as well. But he's pretty multi-talented, Paul. And he just throws everything at it, and he's very quick, because he's very used to the studio. And like, somebody else, I think it was Mick Talbot said a little while ago, he doesn't suffer from red light fever either, because he's so used to it in there. Whereas we all can, you get all of a sudden, you're playing, like, you go, right, I'll do a take, and then the light comes on, like Mike Live, and it's like, oh, you get red light fever. They're all human beings, and it's great. It's just they're just normal human beings. And of course, Paul's Paul. When Paul's in a room, he's in a room. And it was lovely to see when I was recording. I had some headphones on doing a guitar track, and I had Paul was with Bruce chatting. I could see him, and they were laughing together. And I had the cans on. I'm in the same room, at the control desk. And then and then Paul had gone out to make the tea, funnily enough, for all of us. And he was shouting through, do you want sugar and all that, I said, what are you laughing at? He went, Paul was actually commenting on how much you remind him of Steve Brooks. I went, oh, really? I went, oh, that's quite an honour, because I like Steve. Steve's a really nice guy. I see Steve a couple of times a year in my area. And he's a lovely guy, I think if you're an arsehole in this business, you get fathomed out really quick.
That's a whole other podcast series.
Yeah, you don't last. No one wants to talk to you. The phone doesn't ring, Yeah. So I hear, allegedly. Anyway.
Apparently. My phone hasn't rung for ages, yeah. One thing that's really interesting around the From the Jam stuff, I think, is how the audience has come with you. So you were performing the 40th anniversary of Setting Suns back in March, which I think was the last time you were performing live.
So Leamington Spa was the last night, we played, right. Yeah.
And you were doing those those amazing songs, Girl on the Phone and Saturday's Kids and Private Hell, and all those great tracks. But the fans have kind of come with you to kind of, I was going to say allow you to, and I think that's wrong, but it's kind of, they're on board with you to write material and kind of produce your new stuff and bring that into that kind of forum as well. So you and Bruce we're on to album number 3, which will be out next year. I think that's really interesting and really exciting. They're kind of with you on this journey and supporting you on that too.
Very much so, yeah. It's been, of course, it's always doubtful when because you come out with a new track and so you think, oh no, they want to hear In the City. Oh no, they want to hear Tube Station, and I understand that. That's what they're there for. But I guess the reason that Paul split the band up was because he got sick of all that. He got sick of people going, not liking what he was doing in that modern current stuff, and they were all shouting, away from the numbers, it was like, look, man, that was years ago. Today, this is what it is today. It might have been precious and all that. Because I remember going to the Michael Sobel Centre back in 81 and seeing them play when Bananarama did their first gig with them, and the Questions were playing with them. And I remember the whole being dead silent. Paul go, here's another new one. And he'd play like Precious. And then people were like looking and a few nods and that, and then it went dead silent, which was something that you never had, because I think what had happened, the album hadn't been out at all. So they were playing songs that no one had heard. So they were playing like 6 or 7 new tracks, which is always a killer. If you're going to go and do that, bring yourself a good shovel, because you better start digging. Because I don't really get that, It's okay to put a few new tracks in and then, give everybody what they want to hear. People have been very good to us and people have likened it. I suppose if they didn't like the music, they wouldn't be that keen to hear it. And I know by the sales of the albums as well, the sales were very good on the last 2, Back in the Room and Smash the Clock. And I think because we were very proud of them and also very, they were good songs, good little pop tunes, which is, at the end of the day, that's all they are. It's not like I've come up with, the theory of relativity or anything like that. They're just pop songs. And people do get their old knickers in a twist over funny little things, don't they? And everybody's got an opinion these days. That's the thing. They've all got, Twitter, an instant opinion. It's like, if I just, it makes me laugh. It's like, it's just so weird. Everybody's just got an opinion about something. And I know everybody's got one, but does it mean we want to hear it?
Now, you say that about the kind of instant gratification. It must be nice when you kind of put out your new demos. So the Butterfly Effect is going to be the new album next year. I guess there's an element where lockdown has helped you to kind of, because you're always touring, you're always gigging. I'm guessing you don't get time or much time to be able to go and get into a studio. So you've kind of produced this work. You put some demos out on Twitter and the feedback has gone like crazy for this stuff.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been great. There's a great track called Lula. There's another song. There's a lot of songs that haven't been heard yet around now, are going to be heard over a period of time. There's a song called Wanted, which is really good. And Revolver 66 is a track that's going to come around soon. That's on the album. They're not conscious efforts, apart from conscious efforts to write a good song and to have a great melody in it. That's all they are, and some pretty good lyrics in it. I was talking to the producer last night, which was about how we're going to go about recording some stuff in January, more stuff in January and February time. And just looking forward to it. Oddly enough, this producer was in 78, he was on monitors for the Jam.
The other albums you recorded at Black Barn, and there was the kind of Paul Weller link there with, like you say, him contributing to a couple of the tracks. This time round, you kind of double booked. So you tried to get into Black Barn. He's already in there recording the album for next year. Yeah,
Paul's in there at the moment as well. So, and I guess I don't blame him, because what else are you going to do when you can't go on the road? If that's what you do for a living and you tour and you write. Paul's studio is great. It's very homely. It's great. Paul's house is next door, one of his houses. It's a very nice place to be. But it was chock-a-block. So we've gone into another studio down in Brighton. Yeah, we're just looking forward to getting back in and getting stuck into it. That's what we want to do. Once you get into it, you end up, I said to Bruce, we need to get our head down so that then once we pop our head out of the rabbit hole, we'll have a vaccine and then we'll be back touring live. So, we said we were due to be in Australia January down in Oz. And then we can be here through September period, which I want to be back in the UK, because we've just spent so much time twiddling our thumbs this year. It's been tough, as we touched on at the beginning.
Do you know when you can get out on the road? Aren't you doing some kind of socially distanced gigs? Is that still happening?
Well, we've got 3. We've got Boysdale in London at Canary Wharf on the 17th, and then we've got 2 nights in Brighton, and they're all socially distanced. Brighton ones are in a big church, and they're at bubble tables, and And I think it's going to be, sat down. Me and Bruce will be sat down acoustically playing, and we'll probably play a couple of tracks off the new album, something like that, and then play some classics. Brighton's traditionally always the last 2 nights or 3 nights for us, and our fans have followed us around. And last year we played the London show was just before that, and that was at the Indigo, which 3,500 people to sell out the Indigo is no mean feat. There's a lot of current bands that can't do that, as Bruce points out as well, and I think there's a lot of people that can't do that. But yeah, 3,500 cap in there in the Indigo, a great venue. I personally like Shepherd's Bush Empire. It's my favourite, one of my favourite venues, because it's the way you visually from the stage. You look up and it all goes up in tears. But yeah, missed it. Missed being on the road in the winter. I've not had a winter for nearly 20 years. Where I've not been on the road. So, and it's dark. Don't you experience it dark nights? I never knew what dark nights were. At home, I'm looking, it's 6:30 at night, and I'm thinking, well, it must be bedtime.
The rest of us have that. That's our winter for the rest of us all our lives.
Well, we come out of sound check. Usually it's dark, so we don't even pay any attention to that. And, and then usually we're touring right the way through to about January the 30th, something like that usually. And then we have a month off in February. We go on holiday, and then we start early March usually, which I would imagine that come the springtime, it'll be a different place. Once they can vaccinate all the vulnerable people, then all the death rates will drop, and all the serious cases, and then confidence needs to come back to within the music business. It's okay. People saying, "Oh, we'll have a festival or a load of gigs are planned for May." Well, the promoter's the one who's putting his neck on the line, so he's got to know that today. He's got to be confident of that today, otherwise he's going to lose a shed load of money. So a lot of them are saying, let's just put it towards the end of the year, that's where it's at. So, there's been a lot of people that have financially crippled this year. And some of the big people as well. Some of the big people that you don't expect. Some of the big high earners, because they've got high X's as well. It's just devastated them.
2 final questions for you, Russell. And this has been such a joy, so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Question number 1, you're allowed one Paul Weller song for the rest of your life. And this might be something that perhaps this is the one you're allowed to perform live. So it'd be nice to know what you kind of really get a kick out of. And presumably that changes tour by tour. What would it be right now?
Changes all the time. It really does. Strange Town and To Be Someone are up there for me, purely because, distant memories, my own personal relationships with those songs. And then secondly, to see what it evokes in other people, what Strange Town does to other people. And then, of course, I'm going to go on to Going Underground. I was at school, I remember just prior to leaving school, Going Underground, it coming on the lunchtime charts show that they'd gone in straight into number 1. And I remember that really well. And I remember Paul writing to me when I was 15 as well, writing a letter to me. Not out of the blue. I'd written to him first. I got a nice big handwritten letter back. It was lovely. And again, it made him more human. So anyway, Strange Town, To Be Someone, and Going Underground. And, I could go on, into Paul's solo career, Wildwoods, My Ever Changing Moods, lovely song. I love that because musically it's lovely. And what a song that I've talked to Paul about, which as a musician, I've spoken to, and I said, where did you come up with this of Head Start for Happiness?
Oh, I love that.
Because it's just a pure. We talked about it, and I said, that chord structure that you played there, it's just out of this world. It's the rundown on it is mental, and I guess that's Paul's pure talent on that. Pure nuts and bolts talent. That stuff is because I said, it's just lovely when you look at how it's written. It's just, I think it's one of the most beautifully written songs he's ever done.
Yeah, there was a version he's done of that on when he did the solo acoustic tour, the Days of Speed album, which is just. Sure. Yeah, I love the Skullcat song, but that version of that's beautiful as well. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Is the letter approach something you think would still work? To a handwritten letter?
Yeah, I was. We were all in the studio there one day, and what had happened? The record company had asked Paul and Bruce to sign a load of stuff because we were there recording some stuff. Paul had to come in and sign this stuff, and I think it was about 2 years ago, something like that. Paul was signing it. He said to Bruce, he just looked up from this wad of albums and CDs and stuff, and when you go to, there's always stuff that's sent to the studio, right? That's sent down there for Paul to sign, right? It queues up. you know, a lot of it goes, you know, amiss, you know, gathers cobwebs and people don't know where it's gone, you know, but I guess that's the danger of sending it there, you know, with Paul Weller's studio, you know, Surrey. And he said to turn around to Bruce and went, oh, I don't know about you, mate. He said, but I am fucked off with all this signing. And it just made me laugh. It just made, again, it made, he said, but, and then I went, oh, not a good time to ask you this then. Somebody made this lovely, beautiful black and white stall with the Jam written on it. And he said, no, it's fine, I'll sign it. So he signed it, Bruce signed it, Rick signed it, all three of them signed it. It went off for charity auction. And then Paul said, oh, can you get me one of those? I went, yeah, sure, no worries. And I got the manufacturer to send one to Paul, which was great. We delivered it. But yeah, you know, if you want to write a handwritten letter to him, you know, you probably get a handwritten letter back, you know.
Oh, I'll have to give that a go. So final question, Russell, obviously, as you know, the kind of end culmination of the podcast is that dream interview for me with Paul. Is there a question that you would like to see answered or something you think I should approach with him? What kind of things get the conversation going?
Paul likes talking about things like a lot of the time that probably aren't to do with the music business. And we got talking about what were our memories of childhood. Did we imagine that the summers were beautiful in the old days, or was it a romantically imagined? That's what we were trying to work out. And I'll tell you why, because I was recording a song called Senses of Summer that I wrote back in 2011. It's the last song on Back in the Room. And it had all this sort of pictorial imagery of aeroplanes going over through the summer, lawn mowers going, you know, people washing their cars on a Sunday on a lovely sunny spring summer's day. And we got talking about, oh, you know, summers were great in those days. He went, but was it? Was it just our romantic ideology of it, or was it always pissing with rain? Because he said, when I was down at that caravan down in Bracklesham, which is only about a mile from where I am now, where Eton Rifles was written, he said it used to piss down with rain all the time. Just made me laugh, you know, Senses of Summer, which was, I guess, was it my idea? You know, it's like, you think, I used to get on with the girlfriend back then, but no, I used to row like anything with her. Forget about the bad things, you know, and talk about anything, really. It's nice when, you know, I've enjoyed this because it's been nice chat and it's been a proper questions, you know.
Oh, well, bless you.
I think proper questions, you know, I like that, you know. We've put the phone down before. Now, they obviously haven't done their own work. One, what my background is, you know, and they've asked me some questions that I thought, you really haven't done any homework on me at all, have you? You know, put the phone down. It's just pointless.
Yeah,
you know, but you've obviously done, which is nice.
Oh, well, bless you, Russell. I've loved every second of this, so thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the new album when it comes out next year. We're talking September time, is that right?
Yeah, September time. You can pre-order it from Townsend Music, which is great. You can get to pre-order that and a load of other lovely things as well.
Cool, brilliant. Well, good luck with that. Good luck when the world opens up to gigging again. Look forward to seeing you live next year, and good luck on the boat.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Nice one.
Oh, I love that so much. What a great chat and what a lovely guy. As we go live with this podcast on the 15th of December 2020, Russell Hastings and Bruce Foxton are due to play live this very week with some socially distanced, up close and personal gigs before From the Jam head back on tour next year across the UK. Details on the websites fromthejamofficial.com or russellhastings.com. Next week, we head back to the 90s, to the height of Britpop and the man in control of Paul Weller's return to live performance on primetime TV. Rick Blacksell joins us, the former exec producer on Top of the Pops. Don't forget to download the podcast, subscribe, review, and give us a retweet. Help to spread the word at WellerFanPod on Twitter. I'll see you next week.